song is called Coition Ignition Mission. This song is on our EP Bud, which you can buy now at some Brave record store. It's called Dutch Courage. This one is called Log Bass. It's about a Elvis impersonator and a turd. This is a song off a single and an album about a nocturnal animal.
Let's go!
hated Chinee. Okay, we don't hate vegetarians. We just think it's a shame they can't enjoy barbecue like regular people. It's called steak and black onions.
Why don't you see my face?
Especially for the guy that's shouting faster, we're going to play a real slow one.
Slow it down, make it slower. Make everybody
This is a song originally done by a Texas punk rock band called the Dicks. Oh, you can't fool me. None of you have ever heard the Dicks. Anyway. Well, you have. I know you have. The song is called Wheelchair Epidemic. They were playing some ZZ Top on the warm-up tape, and then they turned it off in order to play some stupid electronic disco, and I was really insulted. This is a ZZ Top song. It's called Just Got Paid. This is our last song for tonight. No shit. It's called Trouser Minnow. Boy, somebody read the set list. Thanks a lot and good night.
Too far, anything to do it, Steve. Right, you want your lights. Be careful going over Hill Bridge because the two lads, nothing on, just ties. That's all they've got on. All they've got on is two ties and they're walking over Hill Bridge to keep your eyes shut.
With me is Steve Albini, guitarist and vocalist with Rapeman, who are currently in a lot of the headlines and papers, etc. Steve, what do you think of headlines like you've been receiving in today's Evening Leader?
Well, specifically, this one is pretty stupid. It sort of fits the cliche image that Americans have of the imbecilic British press. The story and the headline are about what you would expect a sort of hack tabloid to write. I mean, it doesn't have any substance, it doesn't have any basis in reality, but it's pretty, it uses eye-catching words, and it's sensationalistic, and it'll probably sell them some papers.
Do you get press like this in the States?
No, really, there is no attention for bands like us in the U.S., so there's no national music press like there is here, and the local newspapers generally have much better things to worry about.
Yeah, we've always heard in the press about, like Jello Biafra's court case, things like that, the sensationalism over there with the moral majority and stuff like that. Is it not like we're led to believe that?
Well, the moral majority is pretty impotent, really, in the U.S. That as a political force, they don't really exist anymore. The moral majority didn't actually have a lot to do with Jello Biafra's court case. That had to do with a rabid attorney in California. Specifically the court case that Jello Biafra was involved in involved the use of a work of art in an album jacket that was perceived as pornographic, and it was obvious to anyone who paid attention to jurisprudence or judicial history that he was going to get off from the beginning. I think it was kind of grandstanding on his part that he made such a big deal out of it.
Yeah.
And the publicity that it caused made his band Dead Kennedy's album sales skyrocket, made him in demand as a lecturer, and gave him a cause which allowed him to set up an organization that collected money from people who were donating around the world.
Yeah. Now, why did you pick the name of Rapeman?
Well, Rapeman is the name of a Japanese comic book that we all like, and it's the name of the main character of the comic book, who is a guy whose job is raping people. I don't really know the context of it from the book because it's all in Japanese, mainly. But as near as anybody can tell, there is some moral correctness to his raping the people that he rapes. I don't really see how that could be, but that's the way it seems to be presented in the book. It's also he sees it as a duty. I mean, there's a lot of passages in the book where he goes through these periods of self-doubt and agonizing guilt and that sort of stuff, but he still goes through and does his job. It's a really bizarre perspective, which we don't understand, and that's why.
What's intrigued you so much about it, though?
Well, all the stuff that I've just been telling you. I mean, it doesn't make much sense to us.
Yeah.
Do you think that because you didn't, you couldn't read the text because it was in Japanese? Do you think then it's you're not fully justified in taking on the name?
Well, I think when we get it translated, and we're going to Japan in the spring, and while we're there, we're probably going to have somebody translate parts of Rapeman for us. Although I have this sort of sneaking fear that it's going to turn out to be very mundane, and then the whole mystique of it will dissolve, and we'll just be stuck with the name then. But for the time being, that and even for the foreseeable future, we like the name and we're going to keep it.
Yeah. Do you think if all the mystique is taken out of it, the name will not be as important to you anymore?
Well, I can't really say that it is important to us in the first place. It's just
And important enough to be sticking by.
Well, No, that's like saying if I demanded that you change your shirt, you know, you would be attaching some significance to not changing your shirt. I mean, that's not really the case. It's a stupid thing for one person to expect another person to do. You know, I don't think it's our place to have to defend the name of the band. I think it's pretty inconsequential. And so I'm disinclined to get into so many, friggin' arguments about it, because it doesn't really seem like it's that big of a deal to us. And another, a point that's been made more than once is that if we had called ourselves the Rabid Murderers, no one would be objecting. It's just that rape is politically a touchy issue now. And if you can't recognize that's temporary, and that'll that the political climate will change and rape will no longer be such a touchy issue, then, you're not paying some close attention to the political process.
Do you think the name will hamper your success?
It already has, to the extent that people in the record company refuse to work on the record. Right now, the record company employs, 100 people, and all but 2 of them have completely and adamantly refused to have anything whatsoever to do with the band. They won't sell the records, they won't work on the album jackets, they won't put ads together, they won't talk to the press for us, or when they do talk to the press, they tell the press how much they hate the name and how stupid they think we're being.
Have you thought about changing the name for those reasons, then, or are you going to stick by it?
No, those would be stupid reasons to change the band name. The only reason we would change the band name is if we didn't like it, and we like it.
Now, to change the subject totally, a fan outside before asked me to ask you why you've got a small dick and no contact lenses.
There are these 2 losers who've been following us around for the tour. Don't have anything better to do with their time than chase us around and come to all of our gigs. And they constantly make song requests to be dedicated to people with contact lenses and small penises. I don't know why this is such a fetish with them, but it is. I myself don't have contact lenses. I just lost my glasses the other night in Scotland.
Right. Now, we've heard the name Bud Dwyer in the interviews in the music press over here. Why do you particularly like that guy?
Well, I sort of respect his determination in that he blew his brains out at a news conference where it was a news conference being held after his conviction for bribery. He was a politician in the U.S. And he read a little statement exonerating himself, and then he blew his brains out with a large handgun. And I respect the efficiency. He used a large gun. I respect the sort of up-the-nose attitude that made him spray his brains over the very people that had been confronting him about this stuff. And I respect the determination that it takes to blow your brains out. I mean, I certainly don't have that much guts.
Can you tell us about your home life? You live in a punk rock dungeon. Can you tell us about that?
Well, actually, I don't. I've worked pretty hard not to have a grubby punk rock dungeon, but I have a small house. I live there with a roommate and a cat, and occasionally, hundreds and hundreds of bands that come through town and stay at my house.
Yeah.
And
you've got an association with the Butthole Surfers as well.
They're on the same label that we are, and I used to consider them friends of mine. I think I've fallen out of favor with them because I've ceased kissing their ass, their collective ass, and their individual asses.
You've got a collection of can openers and comedy coffee cups as well.
No, the previous owner of my house, whose name was also Bud, had a collection of comedy coffee cups and can openers and a bunch of other weird things.
Yeah.
Those are just some of the things that he left in the house that sort of remind me of him and his sad little life.
Yeah. Can you tell us about Super Pussy?
Super Pussy is an imaginary comic book character that we came up with to sort of personify a very aggressive female power. Most of the really potent superhero images in comic books and TV and stuff are, men with weird weapons and magic powers and stuff like that. And we thought it would be equally interesting if there was sort of an ass-kicking, cannibal, man-hating, lesbian, drug-taking, psychopathic motorcycle chick that had, the same sort of respect and the same sort of, criminological importance,
You produced a lot of bands, including the Pixies, since the demise of Big Black. How long did it take you to put together Rapeman?
You asked me about production. You didn't ask me about production, but you want to know how long it took to put together Rapeman. Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't really understand the question.
I didn't either.
Okay. Well, Rapeman formed in theory before Big Black broke up, even because when Ray, the drummer, had found out that Big Black was breaking up, he called me and said, "Well, when Big Black breaks up, I'd like to come up and try putting a band together," and it seemed like a really good idea. So.
How long was it before you actually broke up? That you knew it was going to happen?
About 9 months before Big Black broke up, Santiago said he was going to leave to go to law school, and from that afternoon forward, we realized that was the end of the band.
I think it was a good thing that the lifespan of the band was therefore limited.
Finite, yeah. Because I think we definitely, at least from the creative end, we definitely packed everything in that we could. And I think if we had had an indeterminate future, we probably would have been lazier about it. And efficiency is one of the things that I admire.
So what happened to Scratch Acid? They just broke up altogether? Or?
Yeah, they just, for the same reasons that most bands break up. They got tired of each other, decided they were through, and broke up.
The bass player and the drummer, did they move to Chicago to where you were?
Yeah.
What happened to the title of the album? I mean, there was Two Mules,
Two Nuns and a Pack.
Yeah, and ZZ Top's first album, and you've chosen not to use any of those. What are your specific aims with Rapeman?
Well, we don't really have any goals. It's not like there are things that we want to do that once we've done them we'll be satisfied. We sort of have a methodology that we want to pursue. As a band, we write songs all at the same time, as opposed to anybody writing a song and bringing it to the band finished. We sort of write everything simultaneously, and that's working out nicely. There's a guy in Minneapolis. This is a intricate story, but there's a house in Minneapolis that's full up to within about 3 feet of the ceiling with garbage. A guy had lived there with his wife and 3 children, 2 of whom were twin deaf girls. The other one was a teenage boy. He'd lived there for about 8 years, and in those 8 years had never taken the garbage out. The garbage had just piled up in the house in plastic bags, loose, and there's an image of him, there was a picture of him in a newspaper where he was sort of showing his living room, and he was crouched like this, standing on this heap of garbage with his back pressed against the ceiling of his living room because it was just garbage from floor to within a couple, 3 feet of the ceiling. And just that image of a guy whose house was so full of garbage that he had to stoop over just to stand in his own living room kind of appealed to me.
Where do these ideas come from? Is it things you read in the paper and stuff like that? Or is it just...
Sometimes people you meet, things you hear people talk about.
What do you want to do when, you finished your musical sort of career?
I don't know. I don't have any desire to finish that yet. I've always wanted to produce a Sonic Youth album just because I think their albums sound like shit. And they're a great band. They're an amazingly great band, and their records have always sounded like dog shit. And
what would you do to their records to make, what?
Well, for example, their new album they spent a month working on, a month straight, and that's stupid. I'd like to see them spend a month playing gigs and then go in a weekend and record the album bang, bang, bang.
Is that how you like to do it?
Yeah. Bud, our first 12-inch was recorded live just because we tried recording in the studio and it sounded bad, so we recorded live and it sounded better. Then when we'd played a little bit more, we'd been playing for about 7 or 8 months, and then we went into the studio and recorded the album, and that went much better. As soon as Dave moved up from Texas, as soon as we got comfortable as a band, we started playing shows, and after we'd played a few shows, we went into the studio and recorded a single. And we just wanted to do a single like all bands do when they're starting out. Just you save up some money, you go record your single, you put it out, you sell it over the phone to as many people as you can, and then it's done. And that's what we did. And it was gratifying doing it that way as opposed to having it be a big media event.
Yeah. Do you find people expect the band to sound a lot like Big Black?
Or Scratch Acid, depending on what part of the country we're in.
Yeah.
Is this going to be the band that you're going to be concerned with for the rest of your time in the music business?
Well, I don't know.
Are there any other kind of context in which you'd like to work musically?
Well, there are things that I'd like to do that are apart from this, but that don't have anything to do with, dissolving Rapeman. I mean, I like this band. I like being in this band. So I can't imagine. I mean, there's no reason right now to put it to estimate an end to it because it seems to be chugging along quite nicely.
How experimental do you think the band is at the moment?
Structurally, we're a lot more out there than Big Black ever was. I can't really answer for Scratch Acid because I'm not that familiar with the way they did things.
You sort of like found something you're comfortable with now, or are you still?
It's like I said before. There's a methodology that we execute. I can't really say that the end result is the same every time, but the methodology is the same.
One thing is, if you felt personally that you weren't getting a buzz out of Rapeman, would you want to like pack it in, or would you carry on going because the rest of people were still into it?
No. There's no reason to do anything that you don't enjoy. Nobody got into punk rock so we could treat it like a day job, you know. So I feel no sense of obligation to keeping a band going for any real reason, apart than we like it.